During my time as a personal trainer, I built a reputation as Australia's highest paid personal trainer at $440 for a single one-on-one 45-minute PT session. Now, during this special training, I'm going to unpack for you the journey on what it took for me to go from a brand new PT, absolutely clueless, no systems, no structure, no process, charging $30 a session, all the way through to that $440 per session. Now, this training is directly from our Pathway to Profits program. And if this information resonates with you, then we encourage you to get your hands on the Pathway to Profits program for a ridiculously low price. You'll find that link somewhere in the description. And if the Trainer HQ methodology resonates with you, make sure wherever you're tuning into this, you do hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss out on our most updated content and information. Enjoy. This is the mindset of the six-figure personal trainer. And in this session, I want to take you on a journey. And it's really my personal journey in the fitness industry, which has spanned over 25 years. And during this session, I want to share with you, number one, I want to speak to you about what my definition of good looks like in this industry. I want to speak to you about the concept on how to transition from being just a PT to being the owner of a successful personal training business. I'm going to chat a little bit about some of the challenges that PTs typically face, and I want to show you what's possible in this amazing industry that we are in. The first concept for you to consider is this idea of being just interested versus being totally committed. And the analogy I want to cast your mind to is watching or witnessing a personal trainer train a client in the gym. And I want you to have a think about what you might witness in this personal training session for the personal trainer that is just interested. Let me describe some of these that we would probably typically imagine. Number one, the PT would just be standing there counting reps. They would be goofing off, potentially chatting to others. They're not really in the moment. So they're there, but they're not really focused on their client. And one of the three pet hates we had at Peak Physique was PTs that would stand there with their arms folded, PTs standing there leaning on machines or having their hands on their hips. And it's really a look that says, I'm there, I'm present, but I'm not really present. I'm not really in the moment. If we now think about the personal trainer that is totally committed, totally focused on their session and on their client, let's have a think about some of the things that we might see. Number one, we would see them exactly doing that, being totally focused upon their client. We would see them having the highest level of support and the highest level of professionalism. We would see them doing things like spotting their client, assisting, and using certain techniques where they could touch, palpate the muscle, and really get that client to really understand that mind-muscle connection. We also had an athletic stance that we taught at Peak Physique, and the athletic stance was bent through the knees, the ankles, and the hips. And the idea here is it's almost like we're in this athletic sport or this competition, and your client's standing in front of you, and you're there, and you want to be part of every single rep that they go through. And in our opinion, that is what really separated us from many of the other PTs out there. So what happens is you, as a personal trainer, become an absolute standout. And what you do is you start to create intrigue. You start to create curiosity. And we have many clients approach us and we would ask them, what was it that made you want to come and train with our PT team? And they would say things like, it's just the intensity that your team has when they're focused on their clients and when they're taking their clients through a session. Now, in my opinion, that was what I would say the good looks like. So if we now cast our mind and flip it over to business, what I have seen and what I do see for many years now is I see personal trainers who are interested in having a better lead generation system. I've seen PTs who are interested in potentially making more sales, having more conversions. I see PTs who are interested in increasing their fees, their charge out rate, and potentially making more profits. But it's those PTs that become totally committed to it. They are the ones that make the big difference. And so in many ways, I want to speak to you about the difference between working in the business and working on the business. And of course, the working in the business, that's the part where you do turn up and you are training clients and you are exchanging time for money, which is a very common thing for us in the fitness industry. And this is the part where we are physically taking our clients through the physical journey of their training session. If we now think about the other bit, which is the working on your business, which is so critical. And this is the part where you're working on your lead generation strategy. You're working on your marketing process. You're working on your conversion process so you can convert more clients into your business. And what does that mean for you? Well, you're going to have some increase in revenue, and it also means that you can have a greater level of profitability, because every business does need to make money, but we need to make sure that your business is highly profitable at the same time. So what are some practical things that you can do, and what did I do? Well, I set myself some tasks and I set myself some targets. I had a weekly calendar mapped out, and I said, okay, it's time for me now to work on my business. And if you're sitting there, you're at your work desk or your space, there's some things that you can do to really enhance your productivity. So one of my goals when I made this transition from personal trainer, the psychology was now, hey, I'm now Brad, the owner of a successful business organization. What I said was I'm going to now dedicate 10 hours per week to working on my business. And what it meant for me, that I was going to now figure out over the course of 5 days a week, well, if I dedicated 2 hours per day, 5 days per week working on my business, what it meant for me is that I could get that level of productivity. So what did I do? I grabbed the stopwatch, and I had the stopwatch ready, and I had the stopwatch sitting on my desk. And what I would do is when I would kick off that work, I would start the stopwatch, and I would make it a non-negotiable thing for me to make sure that I got that work completed, or I spent that 2 hours. So if I was to have a little break or stand up or stretch or whatever it might be, then I'd stop the stopwatch. And of course, when I made my way back to the desk, then it was stopwatch back on again. And what it meant for me, that I had that discipline to make it happen. So for you and your business, you can use some of these simple techniques, and trust me, we've got many methods that we could share with you, but this is a great start for many of you, because you'd probably agree with me in saying that we can easily jump on the computer to do some work, and suddenly we can have something a bit like Facebook could potentially be a distraction to your productivity. So what you might do is you might jump on there and think, what I'll do is I'll load up that photo from this morning's training session, or I'll post that video that I took of the group doing the semi-private session or the boot camp this morning. And what can happen is suddenly you might be scrolling aimlessly thinking, how the hell did I get here? And what you might need to do is put a plugin like the Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator, which is a plugin you can use in Google Chrome, which means that it doesn't show your whole Facebook wall, your whole Facebook feed, and you can just really focus on the task at hand. And once again, we've got many of these little tips and techniques. But let me speak to you a bit about the fitness industry for me and how it kicked off. And it kicked off a very, very long time ago. So that photo you can see right there, that's me at 12 years old back in 1986. And that was when I got my first barbell set. And back then, I knew I developed straight away a love affair. I developed a passion for training, for exercise. You might also be able to see from that photo in 1986, I was born in Sydney in a town called Blacktown. And back in 1986 in Blacktown, the mullet hairdo was standard operating procedure. So I was fortunate enough to have hair one day. And as you can see, that mullet, I was really rocking it down the side there. At the age of 15, when I was in grade 10 at high school at 1990, I started competing in bodybuilding competitions. So for me, once again, this industry, what I was doing was my absolute passion. It was my love affair. And I knew that my destiny was to be in this particular industry. At the age of 17 in 1991, I started competing at national bodybuilding championships, and things were moving in the right direction there for me. And then once I'd completed those comps at that age, I decided it was definitely time to bulk up, and that's certainly what I did. So I made it my mission to try and get myself as big as a house. And then for my next competition, well, I had to go and lose 30 odd kilos so I could get myself in shape. But at that point in time, at the age of 21, and in 1995 was when I was crowned the Junior Mr. Australia bodybuilding champion. Now, as the newly crowned junior bodybuilding champion of the country of Australia, I thought it was the same time that I launched my personal training business. And so at that point in time, my perception of this business, I thought, wow, this is going to be absolutely amazing. I am absolutely going to kill it in this industry, because I'd been that guy who'd been, spent my whole life from the age of 12 lifting weights, understanding nutrition, and I'd been designing training programs, I'd been designing diets and giving advice to friends and family members and so forth from such a young age. Interestingly enough, the reality for me was very different. So when I kicked off in business, I had no idea about business. I just had no idea on how to source clients. I had no idea how to market myself or how to promote myself. I was always discounting wherever I could to sign somebody up. And in many ways, I was more or less surprised that people would sign up with me because I just got so much rejection and knockback from people that I spoke to. I became that PT that it would train anyone, anywhere, anytime. I was too afraid to enforce things like cancellation policies in fear that some of my clients might get upset, might reject it, might stop coming to me altogether. And I was definitely too afraid to increase my rates, once again, in fear that people might say no. And when I look back at the commencement and the start of my journey through the fitness industry, in many ways, it was a real roller coaster journey. And there were many points on that journey where I did struggle, and I was questioning it many times. Am I cut out for this industry? Can I actually make it in this industry that I just love so much? Then there were other times when, hey, I had clients start up with me, and obviously I did a good job because people kept coming back and I was obviously getting them results and so forth. But then suddenly I'd have a pretty stressful situation where in a given week, I might have 1, 2, or 3 clients, for whatever reason, finish up training with me. And what that meant for me, it presented me with a pretty stressful situation because suddenly there was a massive reduction in cash flow. And when I reflect back to many moments on that roller coaster journey, I can think of things like my very first piece of marketing and advertising. At the time, I saved all this money that I didn't have, and I took out an ad in the local newspaper. Now, back then, we didn't have any Facebook, we didn't have any Google or access to that sort of stuff, so the local paper was the go, and they used to distribute this free publication in my local area. So I prepaid for 8 weeks worth of advertising, and I took out a quarter of a page ad. Now, back then, my knowledge of marketing and advertising was incredibly low. And so when I kicked it off, I was pretty much the one who designed the ad. And if I share that piece of advertising and marketing with you, what you can see is that it really wasn't following any sort of marketing formula at all. And this was my first piece of advertising from back in 1995. And it pretty much says, hey, be trained by the junior Mr. Australian champ. There's a photo of me there with my logo and a phone number there. And I was using the hope plan, which was fingers crossed. I was hoping and praying that people were going to turn up. The sad reality for me was that nobody called. So back then, what I concluded about marketing and advertising, I concluded that it was a waste of time. I concluded that it was a waste of money. And it also made me very shy, and that became a metaphor for me not doing many other things in my business because I just didn't possess the knowledge, I didn't possess the skill set, and I really didn't know what I was doing. What I see even today is that these things are pretty common in the fitness industry. And I'm here to tell you that the good news is you're not alone, and there are definitely solutions available to you. And that's obviously one of the reasons why you're on a program like this, so we can help you and assist you to be able to build that business. But I did go on to build a personal training business, and we built that over 20 years. And that particular business was called Peak Physique Personal Training. I ran it in Brisbane, in Queensland, in Australia right here. And I built that business up to having 13 personal trainers and us doing over 200 hours of personal training sessions via 45-minute sessions. Now, me, physically, I can't turn up and do 200 plus hours of personal training every single week. So I started to learn some methodology on how to leverage myself and how to build and scale a bigger business. But I want to share with you, first of all, some of the process behind doing this and also some of the why behind business. And these are the important questions to ask yourself when you're going on the journey of business development and business building. Why is it that you do want to grow your business? Now, when I look back on my career in the fitness industry, now I've had a very successful career in being able to build a great business, and that's afforded me to do some really wonderful things. It's allowed me to live in the type of house that I want to live in. It's allowed me to drive the type of cars I want to drive. It's afforded me the luxury of being able to take overseas holidays and so forth. But I've only got to look at that screen and ask myself, why is it that I'm building a business? Why is it that I'm spending the time and the energy learning about lead generation and marketing and becoming better in this area? And quite simply, it's the ability to spend the time with those people that are most important to me. So the houses, the cars, the holidays, all that's fantastic, and I do appreciate it. But really, it's just stuff at the end of the day. And when I know that I'm in a position where I can do stuff like I get to spend quality time with my family, I get to drop my kids off at school, I get them to take them to their sporting events, I get to do homework with them, we get to hang out. And so for me, business supplies me with that platform to be able to spend the time with the people that are most important to me. Plus, I also figured out many years ago in building a business that I didn't want to do it all alone. Number one, I didn't possess all the necessary skill sets to do it by myself. And number two, quite simply, what I love the idea of is getting around really great people and having a really great team of people and really great team of personal trainers that could go out there and make a huge difference. And that enabled me to really fulfill my mission of changing more people's lives. And as we could grow a team of trainers, it meant that we could go out there and really make that huge impact with others. Now, when I kicked off as a PT many years ago, the going rate for personal training was about $30 an hour. And I thought, this is amazing. If someone's going to pay me $30 for 1 hour to train them, I am in. This is unbelievable. Given my love affair with it, I probably would have rocked up and done it for free. But what you'll see from this graph is that for the first 5 or so years, like I said, I was on my roller coaster journey, but I really had no strategy or system for increasing my charge out fee. Then after about 5 years, I was fortunate enough to meet my first business coach, my first mentor, someone who could show me that there is a different way to run a business. There is a different way to consider running a business. And if you ask me, back in the year 2000, thereabouts, just before I made that transition, if you come up to me and said, "Hey, buddy, what do you do?" I would have said to you, "Hi, my name's Brad. I'm a personal trainer." And that was it. That's all I thought of myself as. I used to turn up and I used to physically exchange time for money. That's all I did. Then once I learned some of these business strategies and systems, it enabled me to really value myself and really see that, hey, I'm more than just the guy who turns up and trains people. I have the ability to do a lot more, and I have the ability to impact more people's lives in a positive way. What you'll see by this next stage of the graph is I went through a process of increasing my charge out rate. And in a future module on this course, I'm going to share with you the exact process on how you can increase your charge out rates too. But you'll see that rate, it starts to climb. It makes its way up to $50 a session. From $50 a session, it gets up to $70 a session. From $70 a session, it makes its way up to $90 a session. And then from there, it gets all the way up to $110 a session. Now, when I first kicked off, I was doing all 1 hour sessions, but sometime around that time when I hit the $110 mark, I changed my sessions all to 45 minutes. Then what you'll notice on the graph is it has another significant jump where it moves from $110 per session up to $220 per session. Then from there, back in 2006, it has another huge jump where it goes from $220 per session all the way up to $440. And that $440 is for a single one-on-one PT session that went for 45 minutes. Now, if you're sitting there at the moment and wondering, number one, who the hell pays $400 for a PT session? I'm going to guarantee you a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to guarantee you that there are people out there that do have a high disposable income. And you probably know that already. You probably trained some of those people. Number two, I'm going to guarantee you there are people out there that are in enough pain or in enough discomfort that the price becomes irrelevant for them. And then finally, number three, there are people out there that just simply value having the highest level of service and just demand the best for themselves. And that's my first-hand experience of being in the industry. Now, this session right now is not about how to charge $400 for a single PT session. I'm sure if I had some time to work with each of you individually, I could find a way where you could earn more for every session that you do. What I want to open your mind up to right now is what's possible in this industry, because I want to share with you throughout this whole course what it takes to build an amazing PT business. What that has also meant for me is that my actual hands-on hours were able to reduce. So, like I indicated before, when I first kicked off, I did struggle to get clients, and it took me some time to get some momentum. But people obviously like what I did. They enjoyed my training style, and as you'll see, over the first couple of years, the the hours begin to grow. And this is the actual hands-on hours where I was training people. And what you'll see is after about that 5 or so year mark, that I was able to get myself quite busy. I got myself up to doing over 40 hours of personal training every single week. And at that point in time, I was pretty much that PT that, like I said, was training anyone, anywhere, anytime. Early mornings, middle of the days, late nights, and I was getting myself incredibly burnt out. So as the graph travels, what you'll see is when it hits that top part, you'll see it starts to drop off. And that was the exact time that I went on my rates increase system. And I'm going to share that whole process with you and show you what it meant for me, because it meant that I was able to go on and start to build a business that did not rely upon me being there 100% of the time. Thanks for tuning in, gang. Now, if the information unpacked in today's special episode does strike a chord with you, does resonate with you, then make sure you do take the next step and get your hands on the full Pathway to Profits online business coaching program, where we're going to unpack our full methodology on what it takes for you to build a wildly successful business. And right now, we've got the Pathway to Profits program on sale for a crazy deal. So you'll see the link somewhere in the description, and make sure you get your hands on it. And most importantly, get in and take action on that. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.